everyone, this is Eileen. Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to talk to you a little bit more today about my perfume collection. So I have a rather large perfume collection, so I'm probably going to be showing you little by little. This particular video will be more about my Jo Malone perfumes. So I did cover two of them already in my last perfume video because they are two of my absolute favorite scents, and those are the Oud and Bergamot and the Blue Agave colognes, or Blue Agave and Cacao colognes rather. The Oud and Bergamot is part of their Cologne Intense. It's a really deep kind of savory scent, and it lasts quite a long time. I also have this in the dry body oil. If you want a Cologne Intense because you love the smell but you don't want to shell out the cash for it, I really do suggest getting the dry body oils because the smell actually lingers, and it actually kind of lingers a little bit longer than this particular Cologne Intense does. My absolute favorite Jo Malone cologne, I'm gonna laugh every single time I say that, is the Blue Agave and Cacao. This is a sweet, slightly floral scent, and it mixes so well with everything. It just adds a little bit of sweetness, but it's not too heavy. There's a little bit of a zest and a zinginess to it, especially when you first spray it on. That reminds me a bit of soda. If you want a little bit more information about these particular colognes, the notes and everything like that, you can either go to the Jo Malone website or you can actually go to my previous perfume video. I cover both of these in a lot more depth. All of the other scents that I have, I use to mix with those two. Jo Malone's entire line is developed in such a way that so that you can kind of mix and match everything. They even have a lot of fragrance combining suggestions on their site. So it's essentially so that you can create a bespoke perfume for yourself, something that is your very own, nobody else will smell like you, and I love that about this line. The other thing that I love about all of these colognes is that they are very light and very kind of straightforward in scent. That makes it easy to wear. You kind of know what you're getting into with these colognes. And it's also not too clang or too heavy for the Florida heat, especially in summer. So I tend to bring these out and wear them a lot more often in the summer. So these two little ones I got as a gift with purchase. This one is the Nectarine Blossom and Honey, and this is the Peony and Blush Suede. Now I have had the Nectarine Blossom and Honey in the larger size before, and I finished about half of it, and then it kind of went bad, so I'm happy to have a little one to use up. The Nectarine Blossom and Honey smells straightforwardly very much like peaches. It's very sweet. Yeah, it's very sweet, but not in a vanillic way like the Blue Agave and Cacao, but more in a very fruity kind of sweet. If you don't like fruity sweet perfumes, you're not gonna like this, because with the peach aspect to it and the honey, it's something that I use to kind of lighten up the heavier scents. In fact, when I mix it with the Blue Agave and Cacao, this smells just like a chocolate orange. So if that's what you want to smell like, you can mix these two and it will smell spot on like a chocolate orange. So Nectarine Blossom and Honey is described as London's Covent Garden early morning market. Succulent nectarine, peach, and cassis, and delicate spring flowers melt into the note of acacia honey. Sweet and delightfully playful. Very good description of this. It is a very playful scent. It is something that anyone could really get away with wearing, but I do imagine that a lot of people that are younger or really into sweet perfumes would absolutely love this. Nectarine Blossom and Honey was actually the very first Jo Malone perfume that I purchased, and I loved it and was obsessed, and like I said, I finished about half of the larger bottle. I discovered a couple more perfumes that had, I guess, taken my attention away from this, and so it kind of went bad. That was a lesson learned. I now keep all of my perfumes in very cool places. I don't really store them outside of drawers unless it's the one that I pick up every day. The other one that I have in this small travel size is the Peony and Blush Suede. Now this is a very floral scent for me, so I don't generally use it. I'm happy to have it in the travel size because I don't think that I would have necessarily purchased the larger, but it is very floral and slightly musky as well. I imagine this would be good for for that kind of winter to spring transition, that's what I feel like this scent would be good for. We don't have that in Florida. We pretty much just go from what would be fall in most other places or autumn to the heat of summer. Peony and Blush Suede is described as the essence of charm. Peonies in voluptuous bloom, exquisitely fragile, flirtatious with the juicy bite of red apple and the opulence of jasmine rose and gillyflower, mingling with the sensuality of soft blush suede, luxurious and seductive. So I don't know that I would have called this seductive because it's very subtle. Let me just, it smells very subtle. And that's probably because of the suede. It is very floral. And I do get the peonies, the scent of peonies. I love peonies, they're my favorite flower. I do get that scent, but then it's just kind of a nice subtle floral. Again, like I said, probably perfect for the transition between winter to spring. These four are ones that I love to mix and match with Oud and Bergamot or Blue Agave and Cacao. I don't generally wear them on their own, maybe with the exception of one, and I'll go into that in a bit. But they generally are just scents that I like to add to a base of either Oud and Bergamot or Blue Agave and Cacao. And like I said in my previous video, I do mix those two together as well. So the four that I have to kind of layer with, I do have in the smaller bottles. The larger bottles are 100 ml, these are 30. The four that I have in the smaller bottles are the Wood Sage and Sea Salt, Orange Blossom, Blackberry and Bay, and Wild Fig and Cassis. Now the Wild Fig and Cassis, this is a backup bottle. I actually did have another small size that I went through and I finished, and and then I found out that they were discontinuing it, and so I bought it. Now the Wild Fig and Cassis is, I haven't smelled this in a while, but it is a very woody scent. The Wild Fig and Cassis is very much a woody, kind of deeper take on fig. It's not like the fig in Philosopus, which is a much more kind of milky, fruity, juicy fig. This is a lot of the bark and the leaf. It's very green, but it's slightly sweet. I used to mix the Wild Fig and Cassis with the Blue Agave and Cacao, as well as mixing it with Blackberry and Bay. The description for Wild Fig and Cassis was inspired by breakfast in Tuscany, the moment of breaking open juicy figs fresh from the tree. Wild Fig and Cassis is the delicious fragrance. The scent of sun-warmed figs and delicate cassis is entwined with notes of hyacinth and cedarwood, enveloping the wearer in the warmth of the Mediterranean. It is a very warm scent. It's not something that you would ever describe as fresh, because it's very much a woody scent right from the start. Right from the first spritz, it's woody and slightly sweet, slightly milky. I don't notice any kind of floral qualities about it. It really just adds kind of a woody depth to anything else you're wearing, which is why I liked mixing it with the Blue Agave and Cacao. It added a little bit more depth to the sweet zestiness of the Blue Agave and Cacao. And I also like mixing it, like I said, with the Blackberry and Bay. When you mix it with the Blackberry and Bay, you get this kind of juicy, zesty, woody scent. It just, again, it just kind of adds a little bit of depth, a little bit of milkiness to the very zesty Blackberry and Bay. Blackberry and Bay on its own is kind of a almost sour from the start. Sour is probably the wrong word. It's tart from the very first spray. When you mix it together, because that's how I would often do, I don't wear Wild Fig and Cassis on its own. When sprayed together, it's a very green, kind of fresh from the blackberry. It adds this underlying depth, this interest to the Blackberry and Bay. The Blackberry and Bay I do also mix with the Oud and Bergamot. almost for the same reason. Wild Fig and Cassis and the Oud and Bergamot add very similar qualities to anything else that you mix it with. They both add this just kind of underlying, like, interesting note, where with the Oud and Bergamot, it's from the oud. It's kind of this savory, it adds a savory quality to it. Whereas Wild Fig and Cassis will add a woody, milky quality to anything that you add. But I find that anything that I would have mixed Wild Fig and Cassis with, I can mix Oud and Bergamot with, and it will turn out just as spectacular. But the Blackberry and Bay I mix with the Oud and Bergamot for the most part. Those are the two that I generally mix together. When you combine Oud and Bergamot and Blackberry and Bay, it's almost like the Blackberry and the Bergamot combine to make this really zesty, fresh quality, like zesty tart quality. But then the Bay and the Oud kind of just enhance each other as well. It's very spicy and savory. It's almost like adding a little bit of salt to a food. You know, if you don't add salt to your food, it's very bland. When you add Oud and Bergamot to Blackberry and Bay, it kind of brings out all of the flavors and enhances everything, and it's perfect. It's a great smell. And the last two that I have in the 30 ml versions are the Orange Blossom and Wood Sage and Sea Salt colognes. Now, Wood Sage and Sea Salt I haven't quite gotten the hang of yet. It's very unique, and I tend to put it on kind of first thing in the morning after a shower because it smells very clean. It's a very just fresh scent. Their description of Wood Sage and Sea Salt is: escape the everyday along the windswept shore, waves breaking white, the air fresh with sea salt and spray, alive with the mineral scent of the rugged cliffs, mingling with the woody earthiness of sage, lively, spirited, and totally joyful. Yeah, that's probably why I like wearing this kind of in the mornings, is because it is very subtle but a very uplifting scent. I didn't realize that they meant to connect this scent with like spending your time along the beach, but I could absolutely see that. But if you've ever been along like a West Coast beach, whether you're Pacific Northwest, but this would remind me of like walking along the seawall in Vancouver. It's that smell. And it's very nice and it's very subtle, and I find that I can put this on first thing in the morning when I get out of the shower, and then a couple of hours later if I'm going out and I want to put something else on, perhaps from a different line, I can put that on, and this won't really interfere with anything. My last small bottle is the Orange Blossom Cologne, and I love this scent, and it smells just like orange blossoms. If you've ever lived in Florida, it'll smell just like Florida. It's a very floral scent. It's a very zesty scent. So for me, this is great when I want to just add a little bit more citrus to any of my perfumes. If I want it to just be a little bit brighter, a little bit more interesting, I will add this. So they would describe it as a shimmering garden oasis. Clementine flower sparkles over a heart of orange blossom and water lily, with warm undertones of orris and balsamic vetiver, pure delight. This is something that starts off for me very zesty, very fruity, very much like, you know, walking into an orange grove. And I love that. I can mix it with a lot of different scents, and I find that it just adds a little bit of brightness, a little bit of interest. It adds kind of a sparkling note to anything else I wear. I do love mixing it with the blue agave and cacao because it kind of smells like a dark chocolate orange, as opposed to mixing the nectarine blossom and honey with the blue agave and cacao. That smells a little too sweet for me. I don't think I would wear it in any kind of heat. I think it would just get a little too cloying. This adds that brightness that you get from citrus without too much sugar to it, without that kind of cloying sweetness. So I love it. That is the entirety of my Jo Malone collection. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and let me know if there are any requests that you have as far as the next video that I do. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you back soon. Bye.